landowners really pride themselves on independence of all kinds. So energy independence is one of those strengths that we like to work towards. So, putting up wind towers and putting up solar as part of the functionality and the benefits of our land and our ability to utilize the land with more than one source of production has been something I think that we've welcomed as Texans.
Welcome to Sustainability Leaders. I'm Michael Torrance, Chief Sustainability Officer at BMO. On this show, we will talk with leading sustainability practitioners from the corporate, investor, academic, and NGO communities to explore how this rapidly evolving field of sustainability is impacting global investment, business practices, and our world.
The views expressed here are those of the participants and not those of Bank of Montreal, its affiliates, or subsidiaries.
Today, I'm joined by Raina Hornaday, General Manager and co-founder of Caprock Renewables in Austin, Texas. A fifth-generation rancher, Raina has also been a pioneer in building a renewable energy economy in Texas, which is one of the top states in the U.S. for wind and solar energy production. Today, we'll be discussing how Texas grew to become a renewable energy powerhouse and about Raina's own experience leading utility-scale projects and how the Lone Star State can continue to lead in this space. Thank you for joining the podcast today, Raina.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start by talking about your background and how did you get into the renewables space? I know that you came from a family of farmers and ranchers and you've moved into renewable energy. Can you tell us about that journey?
Happy to. I grew up in eastern New Mexico. It's abundant with renewable resources, and being from a family of farmers and ranchers, we really have to work with and do work with all the resources available for farming and ranching. So we have to have wind for windmills to pump water, and we have to have sunlight, obviously, and for crops. So it's kind of intuitive for farmers and ranchers to have that relationship and understand the benefits of renewable energy more than others, maybe. So I worked with my dad on a Met tower on our family farm. It's very, very windy out there on the Caprock in eastern New Mexico. And I took the data that we gathered back in the 90s to an event here in the Hill Country of Texas through the Texas Renewable Energy Industries Alliance, the Renewable Energy Roundup. And I was able to connect with wind developers and got a development going on that for that project near our property. And it ended up evolving and changing hands a couple of times, like many of these developments do. And it ended up being the 80 megawatt Caprock wind project out there. And that project just got decommissioned and also repowered. Bigger turbines were put up farther down the Caprock there where our ranch is. And I was out there this weekend and was able to see the view without the 80 turbines there. So it's quite something to see the evolution of the whole life cycle of a project, basically. But that's how I got into it.
And Texas, where you're based now, has really become a leader in solar and wind energy production. What are the reasons for that, as far as you're concerned, and what have some of the highlights been over the last decades even?
We're, 95+% privately held land here in Texas, and landowners really pride themselves on independence of all kinds. So energy independence is one of those strengths that we like to work towards. So putting up wind towers and putting up solar as part of the functionality and the benefits of our land and our ability to utilize the land with more than one source of production has been something I think that we've welcomed as Texans. And the Texas Renewable Energy Industry Alliance as a group has really helped garner the industry and support the industry. It was really solar heat pumps at the beginning 40 plus years ago and started evolving into small turbines. And those first projects went up with very small turbines. And that as soon as the technological advancements happened with wind turbines, then the development was able to happen where landowners allowed developers to lease land for wind, which was like selling snake oil back then. And it's really benefited the landowners and the communities. And it's just become a substantial part of the energy mix here in Texas.
Texas has a reputation for being a business-friendly state in terms of tax policies, regulation, and even incentives for business. To what extent has that played a role in helping to advance the development of renewable energy in the state?
It's probably as big as the privately held land piece because people similar developers like myself. Many are much, much larger. Large groups from all over the world have projects throughout the United States. And as they're weighing the pros and cons of projects and doing cost benefit analysis and timelines, Texas projects, because of our business friendly policies and because the way that ERCOT processes our interconnection applications, these projects in Texas, if they're developed properly and the interconnection agreements are funded properly, then these projects can move forward. And in other parts of the country, projects run up against significant delays and sometimes just cannot be ended up being constructed. So it happened with wind. In the early days, there was just a few wind developers, and then it caught on and big groups from all over the world started investing in wind in Texas. And then now it's happened with solar as well. And now battery storage is also happening in a very big way here in Texas, and it's stabilizing our grid. So it's been really incredible to see.
What are some of the main challenges that renewable energy and clean tech projects face, both in Texas but anywhere?
I mean, we're competing with, and in Texas specifically, we're directly competing with the oil and gas industry. And so as we've grown out of kind of a boutique niche industry into a big formidable player in the energy mix, we have quite a few headwinds from the policy side, especially our last session at the Capitol. We really had some anti-renewable bills that were proposed and supported more than we ever imagined. And it was a opportunity for us to really come together. There's a number of different associations that support developers and operators and all the different parts of the industry. And we all really came together and testified at the Capitol here in Austin to support renewable energy. And it was county commissioners, it was landowners, it was judges, it was really interesting to see the whole industry really come together and say, hey, this is good for rural energy. This is good for the landowners. It's good for the communities. And we need it. We need all the electrons we can get. So that's one of the big issues that we've come across with renewables. And our next one, especially again here in Texas, is just the projected increase in load that ERCOT has reported that we really don't have the ability to meet right now. So we're all scrambling to try to get good projects developed and built where we can supply all the future need that's coming from the data center load. So that's what is a real challenge right now.
So, Raina, how would you respond to criticisms of renewable power that it can be intermittent and can't replace baseload sources of power? What's your view on that and the role that renewable energy should play within energy systems?
Battery storage solutions that have been adopted and installed here in Texas and all over turn renewables from intermittent to dispatchable. So they are able to let us use wind and solar power, not just when kind of nature provides it, but when it's needed onto the grid. So it really does solve the intermittency criticism problem that renewables have always had. And it just provides a lot of stability. We've had very challenging climate seasons here in Texas. And since we've added so much storage to the grid, we haven't had calls for, conservation. Like often we will get text and notifications that says conserve power this afternoon. We're reaching a peak load and peak demand in ERCOT, and we haven't seen that, which has been really fascinating to see how stabilizing and securitizing battery energy storage projects are. And they're continuing to be deployed, and their communities and overall is going to be dependent on battery storage to meet the needs that usually create anxiety and stress for the grid.
Are there other types of clean and renewable energy sources that have a lot of promise in Texas beyond wind and solar?
Geothermal is really happening here in Texas in a big way, and there's also creative R&D on utilizing some of the oil and gas infrastructure that's already out there for different energy projects. And the oil and gas industry needs the power as much as anyone or more. So we are, and we have had kind of an all of the above approach to energy, where we work with everyone in the community and in the environment to just, make the grid and incorporate all these technologies onto the grid. It's kind of the grid of the future. So it's been interesting to see. We have a lot of renewable events now at like NAPE. It's a big oil and gas conference in Houston. And I've spoke many times on panels there about how we can work with oil and gas developers and owners and operators to put and host solar facilities on their land and supply their electrical needs with renewable energy. So it's been an interesting evolution of that.
Tell me about your work in agrivoltaics. Can you explain to the audience what agrivoltaics is and what you've done in that area and what it means for the agricultural community?
Sure. Agrivoltaics is basically a dual use. It's utilizing land for whatever ag operations were on there or could be on there for the farmer or tenant or landowner, along with hosting a solar project. So this is a fairly new technology. It's evolving a lot. I graduated from Texas Tech a couple of years ago with a master's in energy, and I did my thesis on agrivoltaics. And at that time, there weren't, and there still aren't actually in Texas, large-scale demonstratable agrivoltaic projects. But we've been able to work with the University of Texas in Rio Grande Valley to do some small test projects with a vineyard and small ag producers and farms where we can see, and UTRGV will be testing the soil and the temperature and all the different parts of the growth of the plant and the harvest of the plants and crops to see how they benefit and how they interact with the shade produced from the solar. And so a lot of the pushback that we're getting at the large scale solar community is getting for development is that we're displacing farmland and ag land. And so agrivoltaics is a great opportunity to have dual use and really provide the farmer and rancher with an additional source of income, which is what we did with wind and really helped struggling farms and ranches out there through all these different environmental conditions and just groups that are dependent on rain and weather events. So it just becomes an additional stable source of income. And then in addition to that, it helps preserve evaporation of water, and it also provides shading. So that research is really happening now. The American Farmland Trust has a smart solar initiative, and they have a ag research and educational project with American Solar Grazing Association that will help educate on this dual use for solar energy generation and agricultural production. So I am one of their agrivoltaic experts for that training program. So we'll be working with farm bureaus and extension offices and conservation districts, even USDA and people like that to really educate them, because that's who farmers and ranchers go to when they say, I have a developer that's interested in solar. How would this work? And so I'm really optimistic that we're going to find great solutions that are best for the land and the landowners and the communities, and that will help provide food security and energy security, which are both really important. So I think education is a big part of the renewable energy industry. And obviously there's always conspiracies and misinformation campaigns out there regarding all things, but renewable energy and energy in general. So education is a big part of what we do through TRIA, which is Clean Techs Now. And we'll continue to kind of gather people together and provide educational opportunities that will help support clean energy technologies and development.
What do you think the outlook is for wider adoption of agrivoltaics in the farming communities in Texas?
It's significant. It's happening already. One of the things that's happened when the first utility scale solar project became operational and kind of went through a couple seasons is that the management of kind of the undergrowth under the solar was significant when you look at 1,000 acres of solar or more. So O&M groups started, and you've probably seen, incorporating sheep to help and deal with those things under the, instead of just mowing all the time. So we have a very popular sector called solar sheep grazing. And it is dual use. It's using sheep and, but it's not true agrivoltaics, just because agrivoltaics is actually growing crops under the panels. But dual use for sure is sheep, and we're also looking at, and there'll be research on cattle voltaics. So raising the panels a little bit higher and having cattle graze under solar panels. So I see that happening quite a bit, and we just have to get the data that supports the successful implementation of it, and then we can feel better about promoting it, and the industry overall can support it.
When you're talking to farmers and ranchers and these communities about renewable energy, what do you find are their main concerns or their main interests, and what are things about renewable energy as an opportunity that they find most compelling, or what are some of the concerns that you're hearing?
Well, with solar, it's different with wind and solar, but in both cases, I have firsthand testimony of this is allowing me to keep my family operation together, my family land contiguous. I don't have to sell it off. I don't have to worry about it, because now I have this additional source of income that I haven't had. And that happened in a very big way with wind in the Panhandle when I was developing wind out there. And the farmers and ranchers are just very appreciative of being able to take advantage of a renewable resource that doesn't require water. It doesn't require a whole lot of maintenance. And so that's the pros. And with wind, obviously, you can farm around it. You can run cows right up to it. And with solar, that's why agrivoltaics is so important, because if we take 2,000 acres, then in a normal solar project, we would fence that off. It's a power plant. So fence it off, and kind of the farmer and rancher doesn't really access the solar, but that's American Farmland Trust is really working with the industry and the technology and farmers and ranchers to keep the farmers and keep the landowners involved and engaged and part of the project, so that they can continue to do farming. It won't be exactly at scale, because obviously the rows have to be wider if they're going to still, bale hay in between these rows. It does happen, but there's obviously some displacement of acres, but at least the farmers and ranchers can still be on the property and still continue to farm and have, again, that dual use opportunity for for making the most out of their land and the resources that are provided there.
Other than agrivoltaics, are there other technologies or innovations that are having a lot of success or that you're excited about?
We have so many AI data center proposals in Texas right now. Many of the conferences that are being given and planned and announced are surrounding AI data centers. So the largest that I know of that was just announced up near Amarillo is close to a large gas plant there. It's 11 gigawatt project by Fermi. And so the technologies that are coming to the table to support these massive projects are, I think, a lot of it, we're not sure yet, but we'll see technologies for filtering water, maybe filtering produced water from the oil and gas activities, because these plants require so much water. And that's one thing we really don't have an abundance of here in Texas. Everyone's just always, the water is a strain, and in different places of Texas, it's different. But up in Amarillo, we have the Ogallala Aquifer, and it's been strained for many years, and we don't have a lot of replenishment. So I think we're going to see a lot of technologies. The geothermal, there's going to be small nuclear reactors are being planned and obviously being supported through the administration. So I think these AI data centers are going to be an opportunity for 5 or 6 or 7 different technologies to really exist together and work together to support a massive project like we've never seen before. So I think the next few years are going to be just incredibly interesting and challenging to watch. And I think Texas will lead the way and how to do it best and how to do it kind of fastest. But again, wind and solar are the fastest and the cheapest forms of power to get on the grid. And we have so many developed here in the queue that are ready to go. So I think we'll see a lot of wind and solar developed to meet the increasing energy needs here in Texas.
Great. Well, thanks for your insights today, Raina, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Sustainability Leaders. This podcast is presented by BMO. You can find our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. Press the follow button if you want to get notified when new episodes are published. We value your input, so please leave a rating, review, and any feedback that you might have, or visit us at bmo.com/sustainability leaders. Our show and resources are produced with support from BMO's marketing team and Puddle Creative. Until next time, thanks for listening and have a great week.
For BMO disclosures, please visit bmocm.com/podcast/disclaimer.